Welcome to the Instant Impact Podcast. Oh my gosh, I love the interview that I'm going to share with you today. And I'll give you a little backstory on why I think this conversation and this topic of building strategic partnerships is so important. So, as you probably know, if you've been following me for a while, and thank you if you have been. And also, if you're new to the podcast, welcome. I am so glad that you're here. But I exited a company that I was a partner in, a sales coaching company that I was a partner in about 18 months ago, and have joined together with some colleagues of mine to form this new company, Brand Builders Group, from scratch. And it has been such a journey, and there have been a lot of highs, there have been a lot of lows, there have been a lot of, oh crap, what are we doing? But we just crossed our first calendar year. We just crossed our first full calendar year, and we generated multiple seven figures in revenue this year. And why I share that is that there is no way we would have done that without our strategic partnerships, without our affiliate partnerships, without our referrals, and without partnerships like the one that I have with our podcast guest today, Jonathan Mahan of Bomb Bomb. And part of what we wanted to talk about on the show today is not only the power of building strategic partnerships, because you get that, if you're a business owner or in sales, it's like you understand how important it is to build strategic partnerships. But it's one thing to know how important it is, and it's another thing to know how to do it well and how to generate and create partnerships. And really, it's about, I think, cultivating partnerships and relationships with people that can absolutely help you scale your business, multiply your business, and create quantum leaps in your revenue, in your client base, and in your impact. And so John came on the podcast today and shared all of his best practices for first sourcing and acquiring new strategic partnerships, and then also maintaining and growing them, and some of the mistakes to avoid, some of the ways that you can kind of stand out from the crowd when you're creating these new partnerships. So there's so much value. This is definitely one where if you can write things down, I think you're going to want to, because it's a very tactical, nitty-gritty episode. I asked him a lot of detailed questions like, how does he carve out the time to do this? And what are his specific techniques and tactics? So if you can, write it down. But if you were driving, go ahead and listen, because you're going to get so many good ideas just from listening to John. And so I can't wait for you to connect with him. I can't wait for you to learn from him. He has a special gift to share with you at the end. So get ready to have a fantastic, fantastic conversation with my guest, John Mahan, on how to build and grow strategic partnerships for your business. John Mahan, it is so good to have you back on the podcast. You are actually, I think you're my first repeat guest. So big deal. That's exciting. So you were back on episode 17. So if you're listening and you haven't heard that episode yet, I got so much good feedback from my listeners on that. It was about how to confidently master video. And John is just like I said in the intro, an absolute video pro, but he's also a real business pro. And that's part of why I'm so excited to have this conversation today about how to build and grow strategic partnerships, because you, over the past couple of years, have become one of my top strategic partners for my business. And I feel like you're always sending me introductions and referrals. And I like to think I try to do the same for you. So I think it's just going to be really fun to have this conversation and to share some ideas and best practices for how our listeners can do that. So first of all, welcome to the show. I'm super excited that you're here.
Well, thank you for having me. It's always a fun talking with you.
Yeah, I love it. Well, I think, so when I think about great, business strategic partnerships, it's like you come to mind as a best practice, as a model of best practices. And so we're going to talk today about some of the things that you do in your own business and that other entrepreneurs and business leaders can incorporate. But then I don't know if you've had this experience, but I can't tell you how many times I've gone on a coffee meeting or done a Zoom meeting with somebody who they have all the best intentions in the world. You talk, they're like, hey, I just want to get to know you so I can send people your way and build a business partnership with you. And then afterwards, it's like crickets. And look, I've been guilty of that too, so I think there are so many, it's like there's these wasted meetings and conversations with people where we have great intentions of sending them business and building a strong strategic partnership, and nothing ever happens. So I would love if we could all stop wasting time doing that and start being really intentional about how we cultivate these partnerships. I'm kind of curious for you, just as we kick off here, like, why is this something that you're so passionate about? And why is it something that you think entrepreneurs and business leaders need to learn how to do better?
I think some practical reasons and some emotional reasons, right? A practical reason is just a diversification of income streams, right? It makes you more, robust to changes in your market and changes in the world. The more diversification you have from where you're getting your business from. It's generally a fairly inexpensive source of leads in business too, depending on what kind of affiliate payout structure you have structured. But usually it's fairly inexpensive. I've also noticed too is this is a gift that keeps on giving, an investment that keeps paying off. A lot of things that you can do as a sales rep to generate your own revenue. Once you've done it, great, you won that deal, but what's next, right? The things that you did this first quarter of 2019 usually didn't really help you at all in the fourth quarter, right? Deals you closed then. Where I've noticed that with affiliate partners and with people of that nature, the investments you make in first quarter of 2019 are going to pay off. Well, if you handle it well, pay off for the rest of your career, really. So this thing constantly grows and grows and grows to the point where you could, even if you wanted to, stop putting a ton of focus energy in it, and it would keep paying you dividends. And then the emotional side of it too is it's just fun. I mean, this is what makes life meaningful. This is what makes business meaningful. These relationships that you build with people are what bring that sense of satisfaction to the work that you're doing. And this idea of like breaking new ground and coming up with new ideas and trying new things, it can really add some spice and flavor to what could otherwise be a very routine sales role.
Yeah. Well, I love that. And I think part of why, just kind of riffing off of what you said, part of why I think this is so important is I'm a huge fan of living by the 80-20 rule and looking at how can I be most strategic and intentional with my time. And I think it's so easy, for anyone who's in a sales role, whether you're a business leader and it's like you're running your own company and you're doing your own sales calls, or you're working for a company, and it's so easy to get caught up in the end result, which is who's that next client. But you can spend so much time just chasing these random next clients and it's not that that's not valuable, but if you could build an army of people who go out and it's almost like they sell for you, like they're talking to their network for you, and just really love on them and cultivate, like, who are those few key, really strong strategic partnerships that you can make fall in love with you and, want to help you out, you're going to get so much more bang for your buck. And I think all of us today are looking for, how can we save time and how can we have more just breathing room back in our businesses. So, one of the things I love about you is you're so organized and you make my life easy as a strategic partner. So thank you for that. And you did this big, awesome, like, brain dump and list ahead of our interview today, just to kind of bucket out, like, where did you think you could add some value and share ideas in terms of how we can both build initially and then also maintain and grow these strategic partnerships. So you've kind of broken this down into 3 different categories. So I think today what we're going to focus on is really 3 different buckets of this, right? So the first is, how do we acquire strategic partnerships? The second is, how do we maintain strong ties with them? And then the third is, how do we grow them? So I love this. And I think let's just dive in and break it down. So, when it comes to first acquiring these strategic partners, I mean, there's so many different ways we could do it. There's social media, there's going to our network, there's, asking other people. But what would you say, like, what are some of your top tips for how we can acquire more really quality strategic partners?
The first thing, and this I would say probably only applies to people who are in an inbound marketing type of sales organization, like what BombBomb is. But whenever you're talking to your prospect and you ask them a question, why did you start looking into this? Or how did you hear about us? Or really, how did you come to the point where we're having this meeting? A lot of times they'll say, well, I was talking to so-and-so and they mentioned XYZ. And you always want to follow up on that and say, oh, really? Does this individual, have they talked about video a lot? Do you know if they're using video in the case of, selling BombBomb? And a lot of times these individuals who are having these conversations, which lead to your inbound lead, checking out your website or doing a Google search, are the very people that you want to be your affiliate partners. So sometimes it's going to be really cut and dried, where it's a matter of this person uses your product and is telling everyone they know how great your product is. But sometimes it isn't even that much. Sometimes it's a matter of, well, my business coach told me I should be using more video. And because of that, I did a Google search of video. Because of that, I found BombBomb. So this business coach may not even know about BombBomb, but the fact that they're talking about video says that they could, be a good referral partner. So whenever I hear that in a conversation about, oh, I heard about you, or I started looking into a solution because I was talking to so-and-so, I always get so-and-so's information, and I kind of follow up, and at the very least, I can thank them and say, hey, here's a little referral bonus. Thanks for sending us something. And a lot of times that's the end of it. But if I sense there's a little more there, I can ask the question about, well, how often do you talk about, in my case, how often do you talk about video? How often do you talk about this? And then I can float out the idea of, well, what if we got in some kind of business partnership together where I helped out your people and you helped out me? So listening is the first thing, right? When people are talking about where it came from, or where their interest came from.
I love that. And I honestly, I'm thinking now about like, have I ever stopped to ask for an introduction to, so I don't think I have. I mean, duh, it's so obvious, but I think a lot of times we kind of just like roll straight through it. So there's probably, hidden gems of opportunities on these calls that we're getting with inbound opportunities where we didn't even think about who to ask. So I really, really like that. And I think, one other thing you talk about in terms of acquiring, which I think is, I'm a fan of big action items. So it's like, what can we do right now that's going to make a difference? You talk about just making a list of people who you think would be good. So talk to us about that. Like how many should be on the list? How do we go about making the list? What do we do with it after we have it? But I think that's a really simple one people could do right away.
Yeah, I mean, I would say I would put as many people on the list as you can. Probably 20 is a good number, right? So you're not completely overwhelmed. But 20 is a good number. And really try to be a little bit creative in this. And again, it's hard to have this conversation since you serve so many people, Elyse, across so many different industries. But I always tell people to think beyond the most obvious answer for who a good referral partner could be. Try to think, another level deeper. Here's an example of this. A lot of my clients are mortgage loan officers, and they want real estate agents to be referral partners. Yeah. And you can do really good work in that area, but every real estate agent out there already has 3 loan officers that they know and send business to. They're not going to be particularly open to hearing from you. But the divorce lawyers in town might not have a go-to lender, financial planners, insurance people, right? There's people who are maybe not the absolute best referral partners who may actually be more receptive to you because they don't already have a go-to guy. Yeah. So I've seen people go different ways, right? Focusing on their absolute best referral source that's a little more competitive, or some people who are focused on the second best referral source is less competitive. I've seen it work both ways, but I would encourage people to at least include some of both on their list, some of the obvious referral sources and some that are a little less obvious that may ultimately be easier to acquire.
Yeah, I think that makes so much sense. And it actually makes me think about even, in my own business, in my previous company, when I was doing sales coaching, like our target clients and quote unquote referral partners were kind of what you mentioned, like mortgage, real estate, financial services, insurance. And I remember at one point I got hooked up with like this really random industry of financial wholesale, which nobody was really selling to, nobody was talking to. It was this kind of, out of the blue thing, but actually BombBomb was part of how I got connected with them. So thank you for that, by the way, you helped me. But it turned out to be by far my biggest client, my biggest referral source, generated multiple 6 figures of revenue from that. And it was much easier. I would say it was easier access because not as many people were going after them, if that quote unquote going after them, right? Trying to build partnerships with them. So I think that makes a lot of sense. One other thing you talk about is like, how do we actually connect with a strategic partner, a referral partner, right? So you could just send an email and say, hey, I want to have a conversation about how I think we could benefit each other. And I think that's what most people would do. But I think you've also got some kind of creative ideas for how we can get on people's radar and stand out. So can you share some of those ideas for what we can do?
Oh yeah, for sure. In my experience, the direct ask, I don't know, it tends to not work very well. And again, if you got a list of 50 people to churn through or 100 people to churn through, maybe it's okay to send out 100 messages. You're burning bridges with 90 of them, but you find success with 10.
Yeah.
But maybe if you only have a list of 20 people and those are really the best 20, and you don't want to blow it, you absolutely want to start with some more of a relationship building effort before you even get to business, right? Mm-hmm. So one thing that I've done is if there's someone whose podcast I listen to and I love their podcast, or in one case, an author of a book who wrote a book I absolutely loved, I've literally had success just sending basically fan mail to these people just to get on their radar, get them familiar with me. I'll send them a video message, right? Since I'm working with BombBomb, I'm sending a video message saying, I just got to say, I listened to your podcast on the way from work, and that meant so much to me. It was so encouraging. I had so many insights. It was great. Thanks a ton for the work you do. I'm a dedicated listener. Keep it up. Awesome.
Yeah.
Something simple like that, right, is all it takes. There was a guy who actually, I've been listening to his real estate podcast so that I can be more informed for some of the clients that I serve. And I've been listening to his podcast for a long time. He's one of the most well-established names in the world of real estate podcasting. And LinkedIn told me he had a birthday, because I guess we're connected. We didn't even know that. It said he had a birthday. So I sent him a birthday video saying, hey, Neil, happy birthday. I want to let you know your podcast is great. It helps me a lot, helps me serve my people. You keep doing the things that you're doing. I love seeing you expand and grow your offerings. And hopefully you set some time aside for yourself to enjoy your day a little bit and work yourself to death. Really simple message like that, but that got the conversation started, right? There are so many examples I could share with you of when a little message like that got a conversation started, and then suddenly 2 months later, someone messages me out of the blue and says, hey, I was thinking about it, and someone mentioned, video, and I know you're a video guy, and now suddenly we have this relationship that we wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah.
There's another person too that she had a LinkedIn post that I really liked, and she's again one of these people who I figure, okay, she serves the type of people I serve who struggle with the type of problems that we help solve. She would be a good referral partner. So I saw an article she wrote on LinkedIn. I really liked it. I commented, oh, this is a great article. But I didn't stop there. I sent her a personal video message and I let her know exactly why I liked her article so much and thanked her for posting it. And now suddenly I'm on this person's radar. And if you look at her post, there's literally 100 other people who also commented, that's a great article, Kate. And if I had just commented there, it wouldn't have really done much and made me stand out. But I sent her a video message and got a heck of a response back. She even sent me like a voice recording back through LinkedIn talking about how awesome the video was, how much she appreciated it, how much it made her day. And now suddenly I have her attention. And now if I want to have a conversation about, hey, let's sit down, have coffee about how we can help each other, now she's suddenly open to that, because I started with the thank you video, the congratulations video, the sharing my thoughts video.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good. And, I don't know what you think about this, but I think, as we record this, we're at the beginning of 2020. And as I just think about like how business and even just life has changed over the past couple of years, I think I feel this. I don't know if you feel this, but I think more than ever, we want people to see us. We want people to recognize us, because things have just become so fast and so transactional, where click like, swipe I never use Tinder, but I think it's swipe left. Swipe some way, right? It's like you swipe, you click, you don't really put in the effort. And so I think it's like, especially for content creators and entrepreneurs and people who are putting themselves out there, they're putting so much out there and they're craving recognition, they're craving validation. And I wonder, do you think those personal touches, it seems to me like it's like they're more important, they're going to be more impactful as we go. What do you see with that?
The way I think about it is there are some situations with affiliate partnerships or strategic business partnerships where, despite your best efforts, they have more to offer you than you have to offer them sometimes, just the way it is, right? And one of the ways that you can kind of equalize that a little bit, make it more of an even, is you can actually give them emotional things, right? You can give them a smile on their face, a brighter day, a feeling of validation and support. You're absolutely right. Like even those among us that we look at and admire as these people got their crap together, most people still struggle with self-doubt and imposter syndrome and worry and all of these things. And if you can be the person who comes alongside and says, hey, your work made a difference in my life and here's why it made a difference, that emotional boost, that brightened day that they have is a way that you can give back to them, even if you don't have something material to give them, even if you can't send them referrals of your own. Yeah. So yeah, absolutely. I think that value that you can offer is incredible.
That's such a good point. I never thought of it that way, but it's so true. I'm just curious, because I think this would be something going through my mind as a listener. How much time do you spend on this every day? Because everyone's thinking like, okay, I've got my full day of meetings. I've got to manage my inbox. It's like, how much time does it actually take you every day to do these customized, personalized outreaches to people?
So the first technique I mentioned of just listening, right, takes very little time at all. And honestly, it's one of those things where, once you buy a red Jeep, you start seeing all the red Jeeps on the road. Once you start paying attention for these, you start to hear this all the time. My work with affiliate partners here at BombBomb is more of an experimental side project. And once I got to 10 affiliate partners, me and my manager both mutually agreed, let's just cut it off here and just work with the 10 and not worry about it anymore. But my God, once my brain had been trained that way, stuff just kept popping up and kept falling in my lap and kept happening. And I kept not being able to refuse it. And, now I'm probably working with 20 to 25 people, and I tried to stop at 10. So it is one of those things where once you've trained your mind to sniff out these opportunities and notice them, you'll start to see them a lot. But as far as the deliberate prospecting side of things, you definitely have to set time aside for it. For me, I've set aside 2 hours each week, and those are my 2 hours to do stuff involving affiliates. And if I have an affiliate who wants to plan some kind of big event or something, that's what I work on during those 2 hours. If I've got no one to plan anything with, then I pull up my list. I have an Excel document with 20 names on it of people I'd like to have a better relationship with. And I just go through the list. And I start by finding them on LinkedIn, right? Connecting with them there. That's a good way to, browse and find opportunities to reach out to them. I'll start consuming their media, right? For someone who's a podcast host and I want to get in their corner, I'll start listening to their podcast. And again, that doesn't take more time because I do that anyways. Yeah. So I would say you do have to set aside time for it. For me, it's about 2 hours each week, but you certainly could get your results with just 1 hour a week and be fine.
And that's reasonable too. Like that's manageable. I thought you were going to say 2 hours a day. So 2 hours a week, like you're wasting that somewhere else already. Like I know I am. If I think about my week sometimes, like we all have that time to do it, and the payoff can be huge. So that's super helpful. I like to get into like the tactical nitty gritty of how to do this. Yeah.
One of the things that's nice about LinkedIn too is that you can be doing something productive and your brain is still registering it as leisure time, right? That's your like, all right, kids are in bed. It's 9:30. What do I do for 30 minutes before bed? You can just browse through LinkedIn and just go check out the pages of those people, read some of their articles and posts, and then shoot them a quick little message. Like this can feel like leisure sometimes, even if it is work.
Yeah, that's true. If I'm a fan of multitasking when you can make it work. So that makes a lot of sense. So let's say that, you get a great strategic partner, like you guys have the initial conversation, you connect, they send you some business. It's great. How do we keep the relationship going? So how do we maintain a strong tie with this person after the initial referral or introduction they send over?
First thing is to go to what you mentioned earlier, where a lot of times you'll have these initial conversations, they'll sound promising and nothing will happen, right? I think it's important that you have to at least bring some ideas to the table. Now, they might tell you those ideas don't work out and that might spur their own ideas, but I don't think it's wise to come to this conversation of, well, Elyse, I want you to be an affiliate partner with me. What do you think you can do? Like, I have to have ideas on my own, right? Yeah. And again, they can be terrible ideas. And usually the way I like to present this to people is I'll say, well, there's a lot of ways we could do this. One is this, one is that, one's the other thing. But what else do you think could work out? By saying what else, not is there anything else, I'm kind of implying there is something else, and I'm forcing them to really think. And a lot of times when I ask what else, I get an answer back and I go, oh, shoot, that's better than I came up with. But by at least priming the pump with a few ideas of my own, I'm helping them along their thought process to come up with their own ideas. But I'm also making sure if they don't have their own ideas, we still got something to work with, right? Yeah. Some ideas. So I think you have to come prepared with the ideas of what that partnership could look like, but then ultimately ask them, what's a good idea, what's a bad idea, and then what else is there? And then take it from there to build your solid plan. I'd say the next important thing, and this is tough because especially if you're an idea type of person, talking to another person who loves generating ideas, you'll get on these calls and you'll just spout ideas like mad, and you'll think something's really been accomplished. And you'll wrap up that call super excited, but then you'll realize, wait, what was I supposed to do? And what were you supposed to do? So I always make sure at the end of each call, I write down my homework that I'm going to be doing and their homework that they're going to be doing. Otherwise, nothing is going to happen because they're definitely busy people. I'm definitely a busy person. If we don't have it clearly laid out, I'm going to do this and you're going to do that. It's just going to be another meeting that generates a lot of ideas and turn into nothing.
That's so true, which you are good at doing. I know I've gotten several homework emails from you. Now I've not done all of them yet, but I'm getting there. So you're good at following up. And I think, something else that you do really well, which I've learned a lot from you, and I think it could be really valuable for someone listening, is just keeping your strategic partners in the loop with what's going on. So like, I love this about our relationship. Anytime I send somebody your way and they end up buying, you update me. Like you send me a video letting me know. I think not everyone has that as part of their practice or part of their routine. So talk with us about like, how can you make that a part of their practice? What's the best way to keep your strategic partners in the loop with the opportunities they've sent your way? Like, how would you recommend people do that?
Less complicated than you think. Usually I just shoot a text message off with intermittent updates. And then when there's the big, hurrah, they bought, I'll send a video out for that. Yeah. To be honest, sending the video out saying, hurrah, they bought, that's not a chore, that's fun because I'm on an emotional high because woohoo, they just bought, right? So it's not hard for me to transmit that into a 60-second video. I enjoy doing those. Yep. And then the text message updates really aren't difficult. I mean, it's literally just type a message, hey, I got a meeting scheduled with Raphael for Monday. The other thing I found is a lot of times, depending on how invested your strategic partners are, a lot of times they want people to sign up as well, and they can do a little bit on their end. There's an insurance agent I work with. He's like a district manager over a bunch of agents, and he really wants his agents using video. So if I text him saying, hey, I talked to Raphael, but he's still feeling a little like he's not very comfortable being on camera, so he's going to think about it. my affiliate partner knows that, and next time he calls Raphael or sees Raphael, he'll bring up Bomb Bomb and give him some encouragement. And we actually, in some cases, will even tag team people. Or in some situations, they won't answer my call because I'm a strange phone number and they're busy. So when I'm calling them to let them know, hey, we decided a really nice special for people in your industry, they won't answer my call. But if the strategic partner calls them, they will. And not all strategic partners want to be that involved or really care that much. But if you have someone who is invested and interested in having people sign up, then yes, absolutely involve them. You guys can kind of tag team the sale.
Yeah. And something else, so this is all kind of like in the bucket of how do we, maintain these relationships and grow these relationships. Something else that you didn't write down ahead of time, but I think you do really well that I want to talk about briefly here is just making people so excited to send business your way. And I think you do that really well by taking such good care of all the people I send to you. And so I know, like, if I'm talking to one of my customers, like just yesterday this happened, I was talking to a customer, I was like, oh, have we not talked about Bomb Bomb for you yet? And I was like, oh my God, you've got to let me introduce you to John. Like, you need to talk to him right away. He's great. He's going to take great care of you. And I know when I send someone your way that it's going to make me look good. And I think that's such a critical part of building trust in these relationships. So are there any best practices or any things that it's like for you, these are things you implement every single time you get a referral to help that person who's sending them your way feel really good about sending you more?
I mean, obviously, you want to make sure you put a little extra effort in making sure the customer experience with referrals is, above grade.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, I treat all my customers well, but I will definitely say I've done things for referral customers that I usually would draw the line and say, no, I'm not doing that, right? You got to figure that out on your own. That's not my job. I'm in sales.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to push the line a little bit more and help people that way. I think the updating is great. It gives you a sense of trust and security, like what's going on. Even something I didn't always do, I started doing recently, is when I send an email out the initial time responding to that introduction, I just CC everyone. That way you get to see the video that I send to your referral saying, oh my goodness, I'm so happy Elyse introduced us. She's great. I love working with her. And she seems to always introduce me to the coolest people. So I'm looking forward to meeting you. And you just being able to see that makes you feel a little more connected, less like you're throwing this referral off into the void and God knows what's going to happen next, more like you're involved the whole time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And I think the other piece too is, and this kind of goes, almost, falls in the bucket of expanding opportunities some, but I think in any situation possible, you want to find a way to provide value to the people who are being referred to you above and beyond what a normal customer is able to access. And again, this is easy for me. I'm selling a software tool. So for me, that extra value can just be extra trainings or extra examples or extra templates or something like that. There are some industries that might be a little more difficult, but if you can find some benefit of saying, hey, because you came from Elyse, you get a special perk that most people wouldn't get. If you just went to the website on your own, you wouldn't get these special perks. And sometimes that comes in the form of a pricing discount, right? Sometimes that comes in the form of a free add-on. There's a lot of forms that can take, but I think that also helps the affiliate partner be excited and be like, hey, because I'm introducing you, you're getting something you wouldn't normally get.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of it.
Which I love. I think that's so true. And the other thing you do, which you didn't mention, but I think it's like, it's common sense, but not everyone does it, is you're so responsive. Like when I send someone your way, you're on it. You're responding back quickly. Like you're letting them know that you've got it. You're letting them know you're excited to talk with them. And I just, to me, it's always kind of a struggle between like, I don't want to live in my inbox and I want to be as responsive as possible. So this could be probably a whole nother conversation, but do you feel like you're tied to your inbox all day long just to be able to be responsive? Or do you have some like secret voodoo that you can share with the rest of us who don't want to be tied to their inbox, but want to get back to these introductions quickly?
In the balancing act of responsiveness versus real production, I'm too far on the responsiveness side, which is probably a little unhealthy for me. I'd get more done if I wasn't quite as responsive. Because you're right, usually if you send me a referral within 10 minutes, I'm shooting something off. And realistically, I don't need to be that responsive. I could probably respond within an hour and it'd be just fine. So,
you could respond within 24 hours and it would be fine. Yeah. But so it's, I think it's always a balancing act, right? And it's always a little bit of a trade and a toss up. So it's helpful to hear that you feel like you're more on that side. That makes sense. So, I love this conversation. It's so good. And even just, as you were talking, I was reflecting back over just our journey with our new company, Brand Builders Group. And, we've been around, not quite 2 years now, about 18 months or so. And literally our whole business model has been built off of referral partnerships, like partnerships with people like you and partnerships with some influencers and podcasters and just strategic partnerships. And it's like those partnerships have allowed us to reach, we reached multiple seven figures in our first year simply because of the introductions. It wasn't us, it was our incredible partners who were sending these great people in their network our way. And so there's so much power in this. And I don't know where we would be without that, but I am so grateful for strategic partners like you and like the other ones I get to work with, because you've literally transformed and changed our business and our, like, my life as well. So there's a lot of power in this. And I think for anyone listening who hasn't really thought about incorporating this as a key element of your business model, like, this is the year to do it. You know, if you've got big goals, big business goals for 2020, which I'm guessing you wouldn't be listening to this podcast if you didn't, take these best practices, take these ideas from John and implement them. Is there, we need to kind of wrap up here because I think we could probably talk about this for hours, but any other final words of wisdom, anything else that we didn't talk about that you think is important for someone to be considering or factoring into their business plan if they're looking to build more strategic partnerships this year?
I think when it comes to maintaining the relationships, a lot of those same techniques we talked about for getting on the radar of prospective referral partners still apply, right? Mm-hmm. You still want to be following your current referral partners, and when you see them doing something great, you want to send them a video saying, hey, congratulations, I just saw you opened up a new office. That's great, right? That type of relationship building you do to get on someone's radar is the same type of relationship building you want to do the rest of the time. I think on this podcast, you've actually interviewed John Ruhlin before, right? Mm-hmm. And his book, Giftology, is fantastic for this. Yes. In particular, what I try to focus on is providing gifts to my affiliate partners at unexpected times. Yes. I didn't send anything out in December for Christmas and New Year's. And that was intentional because everyone's drowned in emails and token gifts and stuff like that, right? I'll be hitting people up in January and February when they don't expect it with these little gifts and stuff. So definitely read Giftology by John Ruhlin. That's a fantastic way to leverage that. And I'd say on the expansion side of things, one of the things that I've done which has been really helpful is I have a master list, and again, another Google document, of all the different endeavors and projects I'm working with different affiliate partners. So I don't have to start from scratch. You know, I mentioned when you start with this meeting, you want to present 2 or 3 ideas. Well, the very first time you do this, you're straight up and have to come up with those ideas off the top of your head. But after you've been doing this for a little while, you can just borrow from other people and say, hey, you know what, actually, I did a webinar with so-and-so that they promoted out in their Facebook group, and that worked well. Do you have a Facebook group you're part of? We could do a webinar. Oh, hey, perfect. There we go. So, you know, even though every affiliate partner I work with sees me as this ultimate source of infinite ideas, you know, I really got like 6 ideas, right? And I just kind of keep rotating those 6 ideas in different contexts with different people, and I keep track of what they are. So you don't have to start from scratch every time.
That's super smart. Anything that makes people's lives easier and makes your life easier that's a game changer. I'm a fan of that. So this has been so good and so helpful. And I just appreciate you. I appreciate your partnership. And I know you've put something together for our listeners. I think we've got a free training, a free trial that people can go through. So tell us a little bit about that and how people can get it.
Yeah, for sure. So a lot of the techniques I've talked about, as I'm sure the listeners have noticed, involve video, right? Video is the absolute best way to get someone's attention, but it's also the best way to maintain a strong relationship. There are so many affiliate partners I work with I have never met in person, but I feel like the day we do meet, we're gonna give each other a really big hug because we've had so much video exposure to each other. It feels like you know each other. So video is a fantastic way to get attention, but it's also an amazing way to maintain relationships across a really wide span of distance and time and people. And basically the way I think Ethan View, one of our employees, has worded it is that video creates psychological and emotional proximity, even in the absence of actual physical proximity. So, like, you know, if I had to point to one specific tool that's helped me to maintain these great relationships with so many referral partners, I would definitely say video is a huge part of it. If I was just a name on an email signature line, they wouldn't feel the same loyalty to me and my company as they do because we have these frequent video interactions. So BombBomb is a video email sending tool. You can also send these video messages through LinkedIn, and that's a big part of how I use it to, again, up-level these relationships with influencers. So if you want to try out a video email sending tool, you can get a free trial of the system. You know, practicing what we preach here. If you use Elyse's link to get set up with a free trial, you'll get a series of training videos of Elyse actually teaching you physically how to use the BombBomb account, but also giving you ideas of what to say and who to send to and stuff of that nature. So her link is just vid.us/Elyse. So
Yeah.
if you go to vid.us/Elyse, you'll put in your email address. It'll then redirect you to a free trial page. And by doing that, you'll get a chance to test out the system. You'll get a series of video emails from Elyse sent to you, teaching you how to use the product. And you'll also get assigned to work with me. And I can do a free 1-hour coaching session with you to really show you how to implement video email in your business effectively.
Yeah. And it's so good. And I'll tell you too, like I'm really selective about what I promote, what I endorse, just because I feel like my listeners, my clients, like they're my people. And so I want to make sure that anything that I'm sending their way is going to be so good. And I cannot sing BombBomb's praises from the mountaintops high enough. Like it is literally, it's my secret weapon. And even beyond that, kind of just tying a bow on today's conversation, it's like you are part of being my secret weapon. And you're part of why I'm so excited to send people over, because you always take such good care of my clients and my network. So it's been a game changer in my business. I've been using BombBomb for a couple years now, and it's helped me get access to people I never would have had access to. It's helped me close 6-figure deals. So definitely, like, even whether you follow through after the trial or not, I'd say, guys, like, try out the trial, test it out, see what it's like for you, enjoy it, like get the training, learn some new tips on how you can use video in your business. And gosh, this was so helpful to me. I feel like I learn so much every time I talk with you. So thank you just for showing up and for sharing all these ideas, and just for being such a great resource, a great friend, and a great strategic partner to me and to my audience. Just really, really appreciate it, John.
Well, thank you, Elyse. The feeling is definitely mutual.
All right. I will talk to everyone soon. Have a fabulous rest of your day.